It is the 21st of May, 2025. We need to check in on the collective unconscious. We do that via the DreamBot. DreamBot goes out, scurries around the web, pulls back what the most common dream words are, and we get to see what is in the collective unconscious. This is a showdown, reality versus spiritual, and I'll break it all down. We'll look into the astrology to see how well correlated everything is and what that sort of means for us. All right, so getting right to it. Here are our themes: 12 instances of real and tangible, and that's a perfect match to Saturn because Saturn, ruler of Capricorn, is practical and what's real. And then non-real is 5 instances / spiritual, and then we have extreme descriptors. So let's look at the actual run. I can probably bring this out wider so I can see more of it. All right. Saturday, number 1 word. That's unusual because, Saturday through Sunday, the days of the week are, common, very common. So to have that as number 1 is pretty unusual. And the word actually resembles Saturn, which is probably where the name of the day came from. But then number 2 is cross. So we already have kind of like a practical, real versus spiritual. And I know cross can absolutely be a lot of different things. But when you put it into the themes that you're going to see, I think it represents the spiritual. Let's go look at the blue arrows. Cross, probably. So that's just more of an imagination. Spirituality, dreamt, and always. The reason why I put always in there is this is a very common cognitive story that we tell ourselves. This always happens to me. Well, it's not real. It's imaginary. It's maybe a spiritual karmic thing if it really is always happening to you. So anyway, it's an illusion. It's not real. Well, I shouldn't say it's not real. It's just in the other realm. Spiritual versus, let's look at the, the yellow. So the yellow arrows are real. Here, train. Okay, let me break this down. All right, so part of the real, the top word in this meme is real. And it's number 3 in the run. So real is something to be looking for. Well, I had train, car, and wheel as a separate theme, but it turns out that all these things are also real. So wheel, car, and train are things that move forward. That's why we have 3 moving type of real, and then we have 3 hearing types of real: sound, mic, and hear. So 3 of those. And then, so the rest of the words are rooms, lots, so land, sister, car, store, wheel. Things that are real, things that are tangible versus imaginary or cognitive or even spiritual, dreamt and spirituality, and cross right there at the very top. So, are you with me so far? We have a lot of real and tangible, or maybe we have the desire to be in reality and see the tangible and know the truth or whatever and have the evidence, versus Neptune is the more of the spiritual, the unseen, trusting the intuition and the emotions of it all. But then keep in mind we have the extreme descriptors. Now, the descriptors don't side towards real or non-real. And let me show you. Missing, big, little, weird, creepy. But they would describe either the tangible or the spiritual or the non-real. these are extreme descriptors, and why that's important is because if we're using extreme descriptors in the collective, in the dreams, that means that things are a lot more extreme, that we're seeing things as more extreme, or if this is predictive into the future, it's going to get even more extreme. Here's something that you need to keep in mind. This is really unusual. I know you saw this in one of the, I don't know, previous DreamBots. It was unusual, but being in May, we shouldn't see the number 2024. That's last year. That's indicative of remembering that things from last year. I have no context, so I don't know why the collective is bringing back 2024, and it's pretty high spike to be that high in the run. So it's not something that we should ignore. Something about 2024 is relevant. Now, linguistic set number 1 says cross, real, fight, here today starts. So basically, a spiritual battle starts today, or a start soon. Something starting soon is like kind of the 3D reality versus the non-real, or maybe a dimensional shift, or something in the other dimensions are pouring into this 3D dimension, something like that. But the unfortunate word here is fight, and that's what concerns me. That we're going to have to fear or not accept or resist or something like that, which is going to make it a lot more difficult. That we can't sort out these things by way, like kind of like emotions. If you fight emotions, you really just fuel them. You make them worse. And this includes self emotions, self. If I've got anger and I am repressing it and trying to bottle, trying to push it away, trying to ignore it, it's going to rule me. And I'm going to turn passive aggressive without knowing it. And people will see me as, what's wrong with you? Why are you so angry? I'm like, I'm not angry, just makes you even more angry. So that which you resist or pretend like doesn't exist makes it worse, at least for internal things. Now, same thing with cognitions and thoughts. You resist thoughts. You try to rebuke thoughts and try to push them away, or try to drink them away, or smoke weed away. They just keep returning, and they make it worse. They make it even more obsessive. So one way to ensure obsessiveness and rumination is to try to stop thinking about that thing. Don't think about pink elephants, and then suddenly a pink elephant appears in your mind. In the internal world, it's better to just mindfully accept those things, just see those things, but as phenomenon. As soon as you put a judgment on it, now we start to think more about it or feel more about it. Anyway, I don't like the word fight here, but I do understand in our world that that's just part of life, is to have to fight things, and that you're going to have kind of a crescendo of two different parties trying to get their needs met, and they seem like they can't negotiate. So what do? They fight. Ugh. Yeah, I know. I hate it too. I'm not a big fan of that, but it is what it is. It's here in the run. The word fight. Cross, real, fight. Maybe a fight, basically a spiritual battle, or maybe fight to get cross, or cross is real, and fighting to get that more of mainstream. It's been sort of arguably been pushed down in the world recently. So anyway, part of the spiritual battle. But most importantly, what I want to talk about is how this seems to match the astrology. So let's go to it. We have the new moon on the 26th, but that's not really what I wanted to show you. When Saturn on the 24th, remember 24th of May, that's only 3 days away. That's Saturday, the 24th. There's 3 massive events. You've got Sun trine Pluto goes exact. Sun is in Gemini by then. And then we have Mercury conjunct and parallel Uranus. That's in Taurus, and that goes exact. So that's the lightning bolt. But what's most relevant for our DreamBot run today is this Saturn goes into Aries. And that's important because what's real is what's worth fighting for. We're going to fight challenges. That's the image we got with the delineation. But Saturn's not just there alone. Saturn, and I don't really think I put enough emphasis on this, which is why we do these DreamBots, is that Saturn, when goes into Aries, immediately makes a conjunction with Neptune, and that's kind of what we see in the DreamBot. This is what we see in the DreamBot. You're ready to fight, and you've got your armor on, and you're ready to meet challenges head on, and that's Saturn and Aries. But then, is this even real? I mean, that's all over this DreamBot. Am I wrong? Cross, real, fight. Cross could be the Saturn difficulty, right? Challenge, the extreme challenge. And is it real? That's the question from Neptune. It's showing us illusion after illusion and idealism and the way things should be. And anyway, I think it's all there, folks. So what do we do about it? Well, I think we go into the suggestion, focus on truth. But, after spending so many years trying to figure out the absolute truth, let me change over here. So here's our playbook. Focus on the truth. I spent years looking up the truth, and once I started questioning some of the things that we've been told, it's like its own cocaine, and it's hard to stop. It's hard to find a stopping point. Once you get more evidence, more what would be kind of the path towards truth, you want more. You want even more, and when you get more, you never really get any of your questions answered. You just get more evidence. You get more what ifs. And so the road to truth is a slippery slope. And it comes at times when you feel like you know the truth, but in reality, you just have more questions. So once you turn that more advanced page and realize that it's almost impossible to know the absolute truth in all things, is to just have this right here, this picture here, just realizing that you just have this list of all these what ifs everywhere. And that's okay. But you can know more and more truth by opening your eyes, not giving up, but also accepting the fact that very few of your questions are ever going to get answered. And once you get to that space, then the new higher, like more Jupiter kind of a cognition is the acceptance that you may never know the absolute truth out here in the 3D reality. So, for example, like law of relativity has been said to not be real, or it's not 100% accurate, but it's a law. So law in our world means it's the law. Everything that we experience has to obey those laws. And then quantum mechanics comes in and says, no, this is more real. This is how it actually works. And then we have evidence that speaks to them. Well, no, it's string theory. You have all these different more truths, but you can't have anti-gravity machines, and you can't have time machines with law of relativity. Maybe it's not a law. You guys will critique me on that. Maybe it's not so law. Maybe it is the theory of relativity. I don't know. But anyway, be careful with those because they're tricky. Law of I know thermodynamics is a law, and some people say that you have to obey those thermodynamics, but anti-gravity, I don't know if it really obeys those. Intuition and the soft skills may not obey those either. I haven't looked into that. But anyway, focus on truth and realize that the absolute truth is out there, and you will get closer and closer to it while still just be getting more and more questions. And that, in my opinion, is a higher state of being there. But might tip into psychosis for a little bit as you try to grapple with that not knowing thing. And then you have Neptune. Remember that. You've got Neptune that is finagling with Saturn on the 24th. As soon as Saturn enters into Aries, I mean, they're in a conjunction without Saturn going into Aries, but I think it's going to get more profound and more difficult to ascertain truth. The advantage is that these challenges, part of the challenges with Saturn is to ascertain the truth. So you got to give it a try, but realize you may not ever know. But that doesn't mean to give up. It means keep looking and keep asking questions. And, real science knows this. It knows that once you get a test result done, and then you could go like high probability, yes, I knew it. Well, not science says, oh, I knew it. Now I stop asking questions and what ifs and stop refining this, and we're going to make laws against this study. It has no context. It has no relevance. And even if you get more studies to verify this, there's still things to consider, and there's still more questions. So real science says it pokes at the what ifs on all these studies. It doesn't poo-poo. It doesn't throw it into the shredder and say, I knew they were all bullshit. It says, what if there's more context? What if there's more nuance here to look into? So it's a never-ending thing, this search for truth. But then knowing the difference between a perception, a dream, an illusion, an opinion, and absolute truth as well is valuable, because if you don't know that difference, your speech, your communication, your expectations of others are going to be very demanding, as if this illusion is real, and it's not. Opinions aren't facts. Opinions aren't truth. Perceptions aren't truth. And then the other thing that I didn't put on here is that absolute truth is not consensus. It's not a consensus reality. Just because 99% of humanity thinks that we got the truth on, these major false flag events or whatever, doesn't make them true. Doesn't mean that what we've been told is true just because everyone believes it. Just because everyone believes that the politicians are telling us this thing it doesn't mean it's not true. But it definitely doesn't mean it's true just because they're, majority. It's not a democracy. Truth is not a democracy. So keep asking questions. That's the irony of truth finding. Focus on the truth. Will be able to keep asking questions. That's the irony of focus on the truth. right there. Focus on the truth. The irony is, if you stop asking questions, you're no longer there. Okay. All right. That's all we have today. What do you all think? Am I out to lunch? I really am crazy, aren't I? But anyway, we'll see you on Monday for another CIRF report, but be ready for 24th of May. That's in just in a few days if you're watching this on the 21st. My video being made right now. It's going to be a lot of energetic shifts. So this weekend should be pretty interesting. You take care, everyone. Appreciate you being here. Namaste.